Hey, sorry about the abrupt ending there. That was the doorbell that I was promising was coming. So my dog went crazy and it actually startled me even. I'm sure I caught that on the last video. I did want to point out something, that section 8 of the rule book does have more detail what each of these AI steps, like it tries to explain more about these AI steps. It's not very good. I don't like rule books that just say the exact same thing that's said here. If a rule book is going to try to address what's in these command charts, it should expound on it, not just simply regurgitate the same thing. But just letting you know, it does exist and it does expound in a few places, but not very many. I also looked into the rules again, and when you're controlling two factions, you can't win unless you meet the victory conditions with both factions. So if red would have won, I would have had to keep playing. And right now it's impossible for red and blue to win because red and blue can't, there's no fragmentation. So basically we have to keep playing. So that's something that was important, and only fragmentation causes the solo player, causes me to have to go to just one faction. So that was a clarification I probably should have done in the first video. But anyways, when I was looking at the rules in between videos here, that did finally get all that figured out. Okay, so our event is Constantine III. And as you can see, it's impacting the Duke player. We don't play it if there's fragmentation, which is not a problem. If desired, the Duke can pay 3 resources each to remove from 2 to 4 cavalry, one of them 2 casualties, others out of play. Okay, out of play is bad. 1 can go to casualties. So then they roll 1d6. If they roll less than the number of cavalry that was removed, plus 15 British resources, and set to Roman rule with military dominance. So we can actually move it back up to Roman rule. It's already Roman rule. So that's the issue here. If already there, they get plus 5 prestige. If not, or only under military dominance, if none removed, they lose 8 prestige. So I'm either going to remove some cavalry, I have to remove at least 1, or otherwise I lose 8 prestige. Okay, let's see, if I roll less than the number of cavalry removed, or equal, I get plus 15 Britain resources, and set to Roman rule with military dominance, which we're already at. So if we're already there, we would get 5 prestige. If not, or we're only under military dominance, meaning we is like autonomy, for example. Military dominance is either here or here. If none removed, prestige minus 8. Oh, so this is see, these are really awfully worded sometimes. So it says, if not or, if none removed, prestige minus 8. Okay. So we got to look at this more closely. If not, if the roll is not less than or equal to the cavalry removed, or if we're under military dominance and none were removed, prestige is minus 8. So I would lose 8 prestige if I don't remove any. Okay? And we are under military dominance, so that's not an issue. If I remove 1, 2 or 3, or it doesn't matter, and I roll less than the number I remove, I still lose 8 prestige. And then one of them goes to casualties, but the rest of them are out of play. So I can't even like train new cavalry to come back into the game because they're literally out of play. Now, this is actually a really nice one if I want to get back up to Roman rule. To be quite honest with you, I think I'm going to lose the 8 prestige. I actually have 8 prestige. Normally when I play this card, I don't even have the 8 prestige, and it's a no-brainer. It's just, oh gosh, I'll go ahead and lose 8 prestige, wink wink, because I only had like 2 or 3. I actually have 8, which is what's crazy. I was actually doing really well. I do not want to kill off my cavalry. Cavalry are the bomb, and the barbarians can take them off the board from my dead fingers. So I'm going to lose 8 prestige. It hurts, but the alternative hurts more. So I hope that is starting to, like I told you, the Duke player gets screwed every epoch. So don't get comfortable with all those cavalry and forts out there, because eventually they are all coming off. And I apologize. I'm just looking for. I had a place that I was keeping my epoch cards, and now I can't find it. So I'm just looking for it real quick off camera. What on earth happened to it? Oh, there we go. I guess I put it over there. So there we go. So that was probably the least damaging of all of them, to be quite honest. So move that down to 0, and let's keep going. So if you're following along here, and as you know, I really don't do this much. We're on the revenue and then upkeep, and then we'll recover. But I just follow along here on this thing. So we just did the event. So now we're on revenue. So the Duke, only if under military dominance, which we are, that's military dominance, increase the prestige by +5. If under Roman rule, or +2 under autonomy. So we just got 5 of that 8 prestige back. So it didn't hurt us that much, although technically speaking, we would have been up to 13, I guess, if I was willing to get rid of some cavalry. So I forgot to adjust this. So I basically had a net loss of 3. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let's keep going. Duke. Nope. This is only under fragmentation. Civitatis. Add Britain resources equal to prosperity under Britain control plus total towns. Okay. So how do we know how much prosperity is under British control? Well, what we do is just look here, and you can see it's 65. Okay. Now, another way you can look at it is we can look at what's in the box, right? So we know that 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, those we're out of the game, and then we should be going up to 80. So if I'm at 65, 75 is 10, and then 5 more is 80, so 15, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. And you might be wondering, well, where's the rest? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They're still on the barbarians. So it's not under our control. It's with the barbarians. But, so what does that mean for us? If you're doing the math real quick in your head, I'm adding 65 for this total prosperity that we control. Oh, that's another thing. It's prosperity that we control. So I have to subtract 2 more because of that. See that? We don't control that. Now, the prosperity doesn't move. This stays where it is. Prosperity for the Scotty, even though they control the region, it still helps the Duke player. We're answering a different question. It's the amount of prosperity that's under the British control. And so we have to subtract, obviously, what's not in the game. We have to subtract what's there, and then I have to subtract those 2. So technically, this is 63, plus the 15 towns. So that's 73, 78. And then we are at 2 resources. So they get to add 2. So the Civitatis are at 80 resources. So this is why, remember I told you that the blue player was adding prosperity back on his turn, and we were like, well, why would you do that? Because that only helps red. Do you see now that it doesn't just help red? He has 80 bucks. That's a massive amount. I'm not sure I've ever seen it go that high, but that's because we're doing well, and the barbarians didn't take much from us. So that's the total resources. Now there's imperial taxation only under Roman rule, which we are. Reduce the British resources by 30 if military dominance, or 20 for civilians. So it was very short-lived. So now we go all the way down to 50, which is still an impressive number. But yes, we had to pay taxes to the Romans. So that's 30 bucks. If we would have been able to shift that over to civilian, it would have only been 20. Okay, so now we add Saxon renown equal to prosperity under Saxon control. There is no prosperity under Saxon control. They ended up raiding their prosperity. Now we add Scotty renown equal to total Scotty settlements. It's not prosperity, it's the total Scotty settlements. And so the number of Scotty settlements is just 1. So we add 1. Okay, so next we do what's called upkeep. The Duke converts all plunder. They don't have any. Every fort, they have to pay 1 resource or remove it. They're going to be paying a resource. So they have 10 forts. How do I know that? Because there's a 10 over there. And they're going to use their money. So they're dropping down to 40. So see, it looked really great at first, but now it's going down, down, down. If under autonomy, pay 10 resources to maintain roads. Well, they're not under autonomy, so we're fine there. So part of the 30 resources we paid was to pay for the roads. Relocate all cavalry to forts. So let's go back over here. So all the cavalry have to relocate to a fort. Then relocate all red federati to red federati settlements and of their barbarian nation, or if none, you have to remove them, the markers of that nation, which means that they become a little bit of a wild card. And then the cavalry casualties go back into available, track rounded down, then remaining casualties go out of play. So, and it's per the Imperium track. So what the heck is the Imperium track, you might be asking? The Imperium track, I believe, is this. And if you look at the little text there, because we're under Roman rule, all casualties go to available. And then when you start moving down, like, for example, over here, half casualties go to available when you're in autonomy. And then for civilian, it's 2/3 cavalry go to available. Now, we have no casualties, but I'm just explaining the rules and where you check. This is the Imperium track here. Okay. All right, so what they're saying is we have to, so sometimes your cavalry can be like all over the place, right? And your cavalry need to be in a location that has a fort. So if we do a quick look, every cavalry piece in the game is where a fort is. If I would have moved my cavalry there, for example, I would have to then move them back to a fort. But you can look, around and you'll see that every single fort in the game, or every cavalry in the game, has a fort in its space. So there's no cavalry that needs to move. But that is one of the things you would have to do. And then, like I said, we would restore our casualties if we had any. And then we go to the Civitatis, the blue team. Convert all plunder. There are no plunder, so we're not going to worry about that. And then the deadly one. Each space. Remove 1 in 3 militia rounded down to available. So we're going to lose 1 here. We're going to lose 1. Here. We're going to lose 1. And then I think up here we lose 1. So we're going to lose 4 militia. And those all go to the available. So lots of militia sort of fell out there. Okay. And then for every 3 comitates on the map, we have to pay wealth or remove them to available. Now those are the blue, dark blue cubes. We don't have any, so we don't have to worry about that. Discard half of all available refugee markers. And so if I would have had 1 refugee marker left, I would have lost it. So it is possible you could lose population. It doesn't always just move from one location to another. So that's why it was a priority for us. Okay, now we have to relocate all militia from spaces without a town or hill fort to the nearest town or hill fort. And then relocate blue federati, just like we had to do with the red. So I'm looking around and I don't see anywhere that we have troops that doesn't have a town or hill fort. I mean, the only thing that was remotely in danger was up there, but that hill fort still stands. Okay, so next, the Saxons, then the Scotti. We're going to do a return. We relocate any war bands that are not within the settlement to the nearest, and if there's none available, they get removed. And then new leadership. So if the Saxons are below 10, it gets set to 10. So basically, they cut off the heads of their leader, and a new person takes over. And if the Scotti's below 6, it gets reset to 6. All right, so basically all it's saying is we're resetting the map. So for example, this is 2, 4, 6. That 6 goes to the Saxons. So they're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they would reset to 10 if they were somehow below 10, but they're not. And same with the Scotti, they're way above 6. And so everybody returns home. Now the next piece is that the war bands have to return to a settlement. If they're not with their faction's non-federati settlement, they have to go to the nearest one. Okay, so all that means is these 2 Scotti ones are going to move up to here, which means bad news for the blue team, because now they got a lot stronger over there. So, and if we had federati that couldn't move, they would have, there's all kinds of stuff going on here. But, okay, next we do recovery. Each region with any control adds prosperity equal to the population, okay? The first you add to the bottom row, then only under Roman rule do you add to the top row. No rows may hold more prosperity than the space's population. Remove any excess. Each city with any control, you restore full prosperity. That's a city. Bear that in mind. That's not a region. So we add prosperity equal to population to the bottom row, then only if under Roman rule, which we are, to the top row. And then no rows may hold more prosperity than the population. Remove any excess. Okay, this is very important. All those words are important. And then we discard all momentum events, which are the events that only lasted during the epoch. And then all factions go to eligible, and then we play the next card. So, so these guys actually are going to get back to the eligible again. All right, so we have to go through zone by zone and restore some prosperity. Now, here's what's interesting. The Saxons, for example, have control here, and the population's 2, so they get 2 prosperity. And so this, by the way, is causing the red team to score because prosperity went up by 2. And yes, I am going to be adjusting that off camera here. Then we go, for example, here it's full. Here, they're going to get 1 because the population's just 1. So just moving the markers. And I'm looking around. Here, the population is 2. So we're going to add 1 to the bottom row and then 1 to the top row. So 2 more. And I'm continuing to look around. Now, this one over here is uncontrolled in Dombruni, so it doesn't get any more prosperity. The one that's there is fine, it stays there, but it doesn't get more. And then same here, there's no control here. What's crazy is the Saxons were really going to start to take control because they had, what, 15, 16 guys there? And then the epoch card actually saved everybody. It is now uncontrolled. So no prosperity goes here. So I'm going to continue to look. You can see that there's one here. And looking. We're going to get two here. All right, that put the red player back up to 78 points. Now, the Scotty control that region. It would get more prosperity, but the population's only 1, and it's filled up. So it's maxed out. I don't think there's anywhere else that gets anything. Okay, so Roman rule allows us to fill the top row. When you go down to autonomy, the top row is no longer valid. It then drops. And there is a spot where I thought we were no longer, oh yes, it was here. So remember this one had a population of 1? If you would have had a situation where there was 2 cubes here and this was a population of 1, you actually remove the excess. That was one of the key words in there. So this would actually go away because you can only have as much as you have population. But now that the population is 2 again, it actually it has room for 2 more. It could grow even more. But for now, that is what it is. And you can see here we still have quite a few that didn't make the cut, but that's because of those regions that we don't have any control, so nothing happened. And so now the epoch phase is over, and we're ready to continue with our turn. I hope you found that helpful. And yes, a lot of stuff is happening, and those barbarians, if they don't return with their, well, they do get to return with their plunder, but if they don't settle, and then that epoch card comes, they got screwed. The Saxons actually really got screwed, and in some ways the Civitatis got screwed a little bit as well, because they had regions that had more than 3 troops, and they lost some troops. It can be pretty brutal. Anyways, let's move on. So now everybody gets to go. Blue and red are going to go first, and as you can see here, we can battle a barbarian in 1 space with free reinforce. This is now all of a sudden very attractive. Blue was not eligible. Remember, we were going to start this turn with blue in the ineligible spot, but now they are. The epoch card saved them. So that's really nice for blue. But let's see the next card first, because maybe we want to pass. Uh-oh, it's Camelot. Add 3 comitates to the civitates available now. Hill forts have an escalade defense of 1 instead of 1/2. I can tell you with absolute certainty that this is the best card in the game for blue. So blue does not want to go first, even though they desperately wishes they could. This is a wonderful, wonderful card for blue. It makes the hill forts as strong as a regular fort. The escalade defense of 1 means they're going to kill 2 barbarians instead of just 1 whenever they do the escalade step. That is a very huge thing. And then if they let the barbarians get it, the civitates at upkeep have to pay 1 resource per hill fort or remove it. So that's even worse. So that's an interesting one. And then this one here, now that a barbarian is going to get to go, possibly, they could force the civitates to pay 10 resources, which, you know, right now we actually have a lot of resources, so that hurts us. Here it says that they may battle a barbarian in 1 space once with free reinforce. So technically speaking, red could play this, and that would allow the blue player to do a battle, because that's what the event says. You do what the event says. So even if red plays the event card, that could allow the blue player to do something. And we have to really think this through, because that actually might be a viable strategy. Red would then prevent the barbarians from causing us to lose 10 resources, possibly. We don't know if they'd play it or not. But the other part is, at the start of the game, the Britons don't have much to do. There's no barbarians on the board to kill. There's nowhere for the cavalry to go kill. All the towns are built, so I can't get prestige from building towns. So I'm either passing or I'm doing the event, or I'm trying to train. I guess I could do requisition and steal money from blue. That is a possible option. I could also add prosperity to towns where there's population, but it has to have a fort or friendly control, so I can't add it anywhere that I'm not at. So I think what I want to do is maybe try to kick the Scotty out up there. So blue goes first. Blue is passing, without a doubt. They have to pass. That next event is worth it. 1, 2, 3 for blue. And it sort of stinks because blue has a lot to do. Now that there's money, they could do some mustering. There's a lot of things they can do. But what red's going to do is red's going to take one for the team. We're going to play the event and let blue go this turn. So red doesn't get to do anything, but hopefully blue can do something. And so what can they do? So what it's saying is they may battle a barbarian in one space with free reinforce, means they don't have to pay anything. And they get +4 to their roll. So what does a free reinforce mean? So the reinforce normally costs 2 resources per space. We don't have to pay that. Each space, we can either move 1d6 minus 2 Briton troops to adjacent battle or muster militia at the battle. So I think what we want to do is we want to muster, because remember, everything's free. Well, no, it's not free. The muster's not free. Just the reinforce was free. But for the space, we can place 1 militia per town and hill fort, plus, if there's British control, 1 per population. And pay 1 more wealth to place comitatus instead, or if valid site with more friendly than barbarian pieces, replace 1 militia with a hill. Okay, this muster is not that good, because we have a hill fort there, as you can see, so we would get 1 troop, and that's it, because we don't have control of the region. So we're better off trying to move troops from here. So I think that's the better move. So is this even going to work? Let me think this through. This is a suicide move. Each of these units only have a half strength. Those have a full strength. So I would need 2 of these units to kill 1 of those. And please understand, this is a mountain, so it's their home territory. So they could ambush us, which means they get to attack us first before we get to even go. So we could actually get completely wiped out. That's a really stupid move. Red is not playing the event. Red is going to just do a command and feat if they can. So let's figure something out. I think they want a requisition. And so then we just look over here and see, where can we requisition? We can requisition if we do a battle, a march, or a train. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to march. Training doesn't, well, I can only train in spaces that are in friendly control. Here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take this back. Okay, so I can only train somewhere where I have control, which is here, the city, or there. So I can at least be next to it. Or what I could do is I could march like a cavalry in there, right? So then, let's say I do that, then I can do a build. And I can pay 3 resources to either place a fort or replace 2 militia. Oh, that's just with a town. I can't do towns. There's no towns left. I want to build a hill fort, and I think only blue can do that. So the marching thing is not a good idea. So what I want to do is I want to just get some blue troops on the board here, so they can just march in there at some point and help blue out. So if I do a train, it's 3 resources per space for troops, 2 for prosperity. So I'm going to just do 1 space, and I'm going to do the town itself, or the city, I mean. And I can pay 3 resources to place a cavalry, or if a town or hill fort, up to 2 militia. Then pay 2 resources and up to 2 regions to add prosperity. So this is actually not a bad one. We're going to do train, and I just realized I have to, if I want to place militia, it has to be where there's a town or a hill fort. So I need to rethink this some more. So I could go here, for example, and that would allow me to place 4 militia just for 1 price, right? Because I have 2 towns there. But the march command, I can move militia 1 space. Others may move several spaces along maintained roads, but not the militia. So it would take me 2 freaking turns just to get there. So that's not ideal. The other thing I can do is I can pay for both of these locations, and if I do a march, I can move from multiple locations potentially. I need troops here to be able to build a hill fort and take that back. Red has all of its forts on the game, so red can't build anything there. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to choose 2 locations. That costs 3 resources each. So we're going to spend 6 resources. Blue has plenty. 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to grab 2 militia for here. And 2 militia. You know what? It makes no sense to put them there. I'm going to put them in Textaverdi here. I'll put them here. I could also spend more resources and put 2 there. And that actually is not an awful move. How many times can I do this? I can do this as many times as I want. So let's get more troops out. Where else do I want to put troops? You know what? I think the Doro, whatever this thing is, needs troops. So I'm going to spend 3 more resources and put 2 there. So 1, 2, 3. Sorry I'm changing my mind so much, but that's some of the enjoyment of this game. There's a lot of choices. Okay. I did that. Now I want to do, I really can't do a build, so I'm doing requisition for each of up to 6 bases that have Duke pieces, okay? And also Civitatis strongholds. Transfer a British resource or a wealth if it's at 0 to Duke resources. So I can tell you I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got plenty of cavalry in places that have Civitatis resources. So now we're going to march it down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the red resources goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we just took 6 money from them and gave it to us, our resources. It's a very greedy thing for red to do, but they do it. And a nice time to do it is when blue has all that bling. Okay, so red did that. They did not play the event card. So now it is green's turn, and they could potentially play this event card. Let's see what green does. I guarantee you their rating. So let's look at this. Do they have anybody to return? No. Are they going to have an effective event? No, they do not. There's no shield around it. Are they first or second on the next one? No. Could a warband trap or ambush and or would assault? That is an interesting question. And this is where that little table doesn't help us much. Or maybe it does. Let me take a look. So right now we have a hill fort with 1 person in it. And it says you need this many raiders, 5. Okay? But we're not using raiders. We're using warbands. There is 4 warbands there that could assault that fort. So unfortunately, we got to sit here and do the math. So what's going to happen is maybe they can ambush that particular militia and kill it. It is possible, right? So if they do, then this will be empty. But let's say that they don't, and then what this militia is going to do is it's going to retreat into the hill fort. So then, looking at the battle chart here, when it retreats into the hill fort, it does not yet have Camelot, because that's the event that's not going to happen until next turn. It only does 1/2 damage. So it's going to have 1 unit from the garrison, plus the 1 unit that retreated. It'll kill 1 warband, so we'll be down to 3. Okay? Then they'll do melee combat, hand to hand in the storm phase. And so those 2 units that are in the fort are going to kill 2 more, which means that 1 warband would be left standing, and that warband would be able to destroy that fort. So Scotty warband could trap or ambush and would assault. The answer is yes. So they're going to do a battle. And so versus each enemy, they're going to entreat, ransom now, or surprise. Okay. Now, this is awesome because the entreat lets them take that without even a battle. But here's the problem. What did we say? Green's going. They don't get to do a feat. They only get to do a command. Okay? So let's look real quick at their commands. And what you're going to see is that the entreat is a feat. See, it's over on the feat side. They're only allowed to do the commands over on the left. So they are going to be able to do a battle. So in each battle region selected, if there's no Scotty control, collect its prosperity up to its population as plunder onto the warbands, then fight 1 enemy faction per battle space using battle procedures. Well, this is under Scotty control, so they're not going to be, plundering their own area. But the point is there's not going to be any entreat or ransom or even a surprise. Surprise, by the way, is how you get to the coup de main. So they're going to fight players then non-players with the best victory standing. Well, they don't get a choice. They're going after blue. They're going to ambush, assault, and siege per the battle tactics table. And I believe that the battle tactics table is just saying, okay, so when raiders are at home, no, this is troops, not raiders. If they're outnumbered and no friendly stronghold and they're not ravaging, they're going to evade. Otherwise, they ambush. So you see, that's what's going on there. And that's if they're in their home terrain, which they are. So they're going to be ambushing. And then, if you get down to assault, they only assault if they can remove a stronghold. And we know they're going to be able to do that. And that's it. And then for consequences, they take any plunder under their own units first. And same order. If killed enemies with plunder, take plunder. Exception, the Duke have to return the property. As long as it's not fragmentation. Okay. And then the siege. We don't talk about siege much, but you can siege a stronghold, which would cause them to, basically a unit would die within the stronghold, and there's no actual battle. So if we look at the actual battle step, if all defending units evaded, withdrew, or removed, attacker may try to wear down a stronghold. If that stronghold was not assaulted, and the attacker has at least as many troops as the stronghold's capacity, the defender must remove 1 unit from inside. Cavalry to casualties, etc. Count attackers for only 1 enemy stronghold each. So it's an option, but I very rarely see people ever get an opportunity to use it, because you can only use it if you ever did not actually assault the stronghold. And you need to have more troops than the actual capacity for the stronghold. Well, if that's the case, you can usually just take the stronghold. You don't need to siege it. So it's not used very often. Okay, back to this. We're going to try to ambush. Now, where at in the battle step are we? We're in pre-battle. They're going to ambush in home terrain. So the warbands, however, that's for raiders. For warbands, if they're in their home terrain, they ambush on a 3 to 6. So they're really dang good. So let's see what they do. And they rolled a 4. Okay. So they're going to ambush that militia that is sitting there. So this militia is going to die and not even get to retreat. So it's out of the game. So now they're going to attack this hill fort. And remember, the hill fort has one garrison, and it only does half damage. Well, the Scotty have a full hit point. So a half damage does nothing to them. Nobody dies. So then they get to the storm phase where they're doing hand-to-hand combat, and this one unit in here will kill one of the units. So only one unit dies, and this is destroyed. All right, so now we got to look at the consequences of the battle. So if the cavalry fought, we skip the first one. Each fort, or before fragmentation, town lowers prestige by 2. This is not a fort or a town, so we don't have to worry about that. Each stronghold destroyed, attacker places 2 plunder from off the map onto attacking units. So they do get 2 plunder, which is actually pretty cool. So we're going to put those on the warbands here. Okay. If a barbarian faction lost fewer pieces than the enemy and survived, it gains 1 renown. Unfortunately, they both lost 1. Well, actually, the enemy... Oh, they did lose fewer. Oh my gosh! Because we lost that militia, right? So that's 1 piece, and then the actual hill fort itself is a 2nd piece. So blue lost 2 pieces, and they only lost 1 piece. Oh my gosh, so they get +1 renown. So the Scotty gets a point. Beam me up. Okay. If executing faction kills enemies with plunder, we skip that. All right, we're done. That was green's turn. Okay, so what was the point of that? Well, number 1, destroying the stronghold removed blue's ability to ever take control of that back without a lot of serious coordination. That's one thing. The second thing is they could settle again in the same location, which actually is a very powerful thing to do. So they can have 2 settlements in the same location. Scotty don't really care about the number of settlement regions they have. They just want to get 3 settlements on the board so they can trigger one of their win game conditions. It doesn't matter where they are. And remember, the Scotty are all about the money. So anyways, we are at the end of the turn. They move down, and these 2 are left. So this card goes. Camelot is coming into play. And then we have this card, Swift Chargers. So we can pay to march up to 2 regions, which is pretty cool. Battle in any destination marching units arrived. -1 to enemy evade and ambush. So it's a nice way to go after enemy there in home territory. Lucky raid, free raid in 1 region and then free return from there. So it's a okay card. But we know blue is doing the event. That's do not pass go, do not click $200. So we're gonna go ahead and grab this card, and I'm gonna go ahead and just lay it here. I know it's not a red event, but we're gonna just lay them there. On that side of the board, so we know that those are ours. And that was Yippee Skippy. So we do get to add 3 comitates to the available. Now, what are comitates? Those are these things. They are a lot stronger. They're like war bands. They have 1 strength each instead of half strength. And then the other thing is these hill forts now have 1 strength garrison. So anybody inside does 1 strength of damage instead of a half strength. So that battle we just ended up doing not so long ago would have come out very differently. So anyways, that's blue. Very quick turn. Okay, and then we go to black, and here you can see they can do a full command and feat, which is not good. But we'll see what black's going to do with that. The next card, by the way, is they are first and second, but it's not a priority. So let's see where they go. They're not returning home. They don't have an effective event. They are second on the next card, but it's not the effective. If we roll a 1 or a 2, and the settle is certain to add something, that is not going to happen. Settle won't be adding anything. Well, actually, no, it would. Never mind. See, settle has this weird thing where we got to look at the actual action. But settle is not just, it's like you can roll dice to replace raiders with warbands, but then you can pay renown and actually add a warband per settlement. So they can add another warband to this location. So settlement would add a piece. It would add something. See, that's what that adds something is. Something, something. All right, so let's roll dice, see what happens. I rolled a 2. So they actually are going to march. Oh, they're going to march with settle. Okay. Leave 2 warbands per Saxon settlement. Lose no Saxon control. Okay, so there's only 2 warbands there, so nobody's marching. Settle now if able. Oh yeah, so that means we get to do the feat first, which answers that question from a while ago. So we're going to go ahead and settle now, and the thing we're going to do is we're certain to add something. It's funny, it doesn't say to add warbands. I mean, it just says you pay to add at least 2 warbands. That's interesting. Add settlement and then population only where Saxons are able to end with control and 2+ warbands per Saxon settlement. If able, otherwise after March, if able. So nowhere in here is it saying to add warbands, unless of course it's just to get to the 2. This is where the AI bots get a little funky. So the settle feat can add pieces, right? It'll add something if we pay 3 renown to place 1 Saxon warband per settlement. Plus, if there's Saxon control, we get to do 1 per population. Or replace 2 Saxons with a settlement, okay? We would get to place 1 Saxon because of the settlement, and then 2 more because of the population. Then it says, or replace 2 Saxon warbands with a settlement, or remove 3 to add a population. Okay. I could do that, but I need to add Saxon warbands. And nowhere in this priority does it say to add warbands. It says to add population, add settlement. See, now roll returning raiders would add warbands. We're certain to add something. I think, you know what, we should do number 1 here. I think that's our ticket. So we're going to pay 3 renown. 1, 2, 3. So we just paid the 3 renown. So we're going to get to add 1 warband because we have 1 settlement. Then we're going to be able to add 2 more warbands because we have 2 population. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 warbands there. Okay, that's it. Now, I would tell you, hey, why can't we just settle? Because we could spend 2 of these to settle. It was a big or statement. So we're adding them this way, or we're taking them away to make this. Now, the difference is that if we had raiders, The raiders add the war bands, and we get to do that before we enter into this big or statement. So, so that's the difference. If there were raiders there, we could have added war bands and then created a settlement all in one kabang. And this one, we're not doing that. And in fact, what we did is we just added a bunch of war bands, and now we're going to go to the march action. Because that was, it said to settle first. So we move to where Saxon troops will then outnumber enemy troops by 4. To remove the most control into the fens from player at victory. Move to remove enemy control or for settle, then to add settlement. And it says into fens, which is a priority. So we're either moving to settle or we're going to move to have 4 more units than the enemy. It is impossible to have 4 more units than the enemy. Because remember, you have to always leave 2 with their settlement. So we only have 3 to move. So the march command is not going to do diddly, to be honest. They're just going to stay there. So that's the turn. It's over. It was a little bit weak, but they did get stronger with their war bands, and you sometimes have to do that. All right, so we're moving on to the next turn. That's right, this is the Swift Chargers. The free raid is sort of nice, but I don't know if the AI will do it. And then for us, let's see, what's this next card? This one's more placing Saxon Federati, which is that thing we were talking about. Or it's the Tribal War, which is destroying a bunch of stuff in Iceni and Trinovantes. So it actually is usable. You can see the sword going through there. So the green player may actually want to do that. We don't know. So red goes first. Actually, the black player would be the first to go in that phase. Red goes first. Do I want to pay to march up to 2 regions, battle in any destinations marching units arrive, -1 to enemy evade and ambush? And mind you, I can march the Civitatis armies. I'm not going to do that. I think I'm going to do more of what we did last time. So we're going to do a full command and feat. And the command is going to be this train command again. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm either going to bring in 2 militia. There's nowhere to intercept. There's nowhere to battle. I could march. I'm not interested in that. Oh no, the march is actually a good idea. Oh, that's actually a fantastic idea to do the march. So do I want to do it via the event? Yeah, I do. So I'm going to do the event, and I get to march up to 2 regions. Battle on any destination marching units arrive, -1 to their rolls. So maybe I should just do a regular march command. Because if I do I'm going to do the full, I'm doing the command. So I'm going to just march on my own. And it's 2 resources per origin space. And I can move cavalry and or red federati. And then if the Civitatis agree and it's not fragmentation, I may pick up the Comitatis, blue federati, and or militia. Militia may move 1 space, others may move several along maintained roads. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and march this cavalry, and I'm going to pick up the 2 civilians, and we're going to just march to this location, which would then allow us to claim back that territory once we can build something there, right? So that's 1 march. So that's going to cost me 2 resources. Now, there's another place I could march and actually go to war and maybe even win. It's a scary concept, but I could try to march into here. And the problem is I would need the event card then. Because the event card says you can march up to 2 regions and then battle in the destination. So I would have picked maybe this region and this region, marched troops in, and then did a big battle there. And they would have gotten -1 to their die rolls, which would have helped us. But that's not the option I chose. I wanted to help get this road back in place. So where else can I march that's going to matter? Now I can still march in here, I would have to battle on a different turn. And I'm not super excited about, like, for example, I don't want to have 5 troops here. I do eventually want to move some out of there. How badly do I want to take this back? The answer is sort of badly, but not that badly. I think I want to hold on to everything else. That's my thing. So I'm going to pay 2 more to march these 2, and we're going to go in different directions, and I'm just going to help reinforce those areas. I know at the end of the epoch I'm going to lose troops, but I'm protecting my my juicy troops. It's almost like juicy fruit. It's just my juicy troops. Now what's interesting, it says move cavalry and or red federati, period. It says if the civitatis agree, you may pick up the militia and other troops. So does pick up mean I have to move a cavalry? That's an interesting question. So I don't think I can do that. So I'm going to put those back. I would have to move a cavalry with the troops, which is what I did over there. I don't want to move cavalry into here. This is a mess. I think I'm going to sit tight. So I'm going to pay 2 resources, I guess. And that's all I'm doing. But, okay, so why did I not do the event? Because I could have done the event and really kicked some butt here. The reason was I wanted to either build or requisition. And I think it's requisition that I want to do. Because I can only build towns there. So yeah, I'm going to take 6 more resources. So yes, being super greedy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you may be thinking, boy, that's really low. In a multiplayer game, the red player is going to do that to you as often as possible. They're basically taunting you and begging you, excuse me, to move towards fragmentation. At least the one guy I played with, he was brutal in doing that. Okay. So now we move to green, and what we did was by not playing the event card, we prevented green from doing a feat. So if they do raid, they're not going to be able to add a surprise or do a ransom or entreat, right? They can't do any of those things. So let's see what green's going to do. All right, so green does not have, well, they do have plunder, but not that much. I guess I'll roll. They don't have that much plunder. There is not an effective event, neither on the second card. Can they trap or ambush or assault? No, not anymore. Scotty warbands are all on the map. No, they're not. Some are, not all of them. 25 plus Scotty Raiders. They are going to probably raid. I rolled a 6. They are not going to raid. They're going to go this way. Scotty, by sequence of play, may use the event and event effective, and it's not, the eagle wings. It is not the eagle wings. So they could use the event, and it gives them a free raid in one region and then a free return from there. So, sure. So it's only one region, but that's what they'll do. So it says if Neil Nagalak, per the box below to the right. So here we go. Raid, first target. If no raiders in Neil Nagalak box, roll 2d4 raiders there. If raiders are already in the box, add all of them to the first raid target. So they're basically just going to raid the Neo Nagalak, but then there's no point in doing a free return. So I think we're going to ignore that. I know that's what the AI says to do, but this event is sort of special because you get to do a return. If we put a raid on the Neo Nagalak, there's no point in returning. I mean, the whole point of raiding there is to put them there and keep them there. So we're going to go ahead and do a 2d4 raid because it's free in one region. And so then we'll just look here, and it looks like we got to roll a die. Or no, if raids above are free, for 0 renown, we got to go to least subtraction, at most prosperity, and into hills. Okay. Patrols are here. Can't do that. There's no patrols over there. And there's plenty of hills, and least subtraction is fine over there. Now, where is the most prosperity? That is a good question. They're not going to raid their own place. There is 2. Here, there's 4. That's where they would raid. All right, so let's do it. 2d4. That's 4. Yes, 4. So 4 raiders are going to land there. They're going to take 2 prosperity. And I'm moving them off map, taking them away from red. And I don't think that's even remotely close to enough to win a battle. So they're not going to be assaulting anytime soon. So then they get to do a return. So this 2 actually goes into their docket, and they get the $2, and all of them return back home. Because that's what the event card lets them do. All right, so that round is over. And these become eligible, and they're now ineligible. And I'm going to hit stop and go. I'm running a high risk of running out of disk space, so I may start uploading and switching cameras here. So give me a few minutes, and I will see you soon.